What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the 2007 mixtape by Kutt Calhoun. Basically, this project is called Flamez Mixtape, and it came out in the late summer or early fall of 2007. Now, the thing about this particular project is just the fact that Kutt Calhoun kind of had Kutt Calhoun's wheels were kind of revving after his 2004 album Blev, and that was a pretty particular hit album. That was definitely one of the initial ones off of Strange Music. So Tech Nine had been around for 20 years now, as far as that pitch kind of happened just in the early days. Basically, Tech Nine established Strange Music around 2002 with the album Absolute Power and some of those type pitches, and he put out like some kind of sampler packages and stuff like that. Tech Nine put out some bonus packages and samplers and stuff like that. It was kind of starting to get stuff together, but one of which was an album that came out in early 2004. One of the initial ones of Strange Music was Scatterman and Snug Brim's album. And then after that, in the summer of 2004, Kutt Calhoun came out with Blev. But then Kutt Calhoun did not put out another project until the fall of 2008, as far as that particular pitch kind of happened with feature presentation. So it's kind of a question as to why he had that 4-year gap. But this is one that came out 3 years after Blev in the fall of 2007. But apparently it was supposed to come out sooner than that, as far as that pitch kind of went along with it. He has a song on this particular mixtape called The Story, which explains the delays and stuff like that. There was just some bickering and label problems as far as that pitch kind of particularly happened with it. But this is a pretty solid mixtape here. It has a good amalgamation of some stuff. It's not a full-blown original mixtape, or really it's not an original. This project is mostly freestyles to other instrumentals, like a typical mixtape format of like the 2000s type fare, as far as that pitch kind of happens with it. But it does have a few original songs in here, some of which I do recommend. I mean, it's a 19-song project, so that's pretty good. It's a 19-song project, so it's pretty good to get that in particular. There's a good assortment of songs I do recommend on here, but for the most part, most of the songs I recommend on here are like the vast majority of the songs on this particular mixtape are freestyles to other instrumentals and stuff like that. Tech Nine is on here a couple times, which is interesting just because I don't recall Tech Nine doing mixtape type stuff that often. I think he had like in mixtape from 2010, it was called like Kill a Season or something like that. I think that was actually Cameron, but I forget. Tech Nine dropped a mixtape in the fall of 2010 that was interesting, but I just don't know if it was the instrumentals like this particular project. But it's interesting just because this was kind of a spare area for Kutt Calhoun as far as that pitch kind of happened, just because he wasn't really around in 2005, 6, or 7, or for most of 2008 as far as that pitch can happen with it. It took a little while for the album feature presentation to get established as far as that pitch can happen, but this is like an in-between type project. Apparently it almost didn't come out or something like that of that relative pitch. It was just kind of label disputes and those sorts of things. It's kind of the concept of it, but it's a good concept to get some of this on here. Tech Nine's on here a couple of times. Folks like BG, Bullet Wound, Scatterman, and Snug Brim, some of those type folks. Chris Calico, Scatterman and Snug Brim, some of those type folks. Chris Calico's on here a couple of times as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. Even Tupac is on here. It's an interesting pitch kind of get the Tupac song, just because I don't know if Kutt Calhoun and Tupac actually did a song. It seems kind of far-fetched just because I think Kutt Calhoun was a few years younger than Tupac, so I don't know if he was really thriving in like the 90s as far as that pitch kind of happened. I mean, it's a concept that Kutt Calhoun was around in like the early 2000s, but I just wonder, Tupac died in like the summer of 96, so I just wonder if he was kind of there within that window, but it seems kind of more or less likely. I mean, Tech Nine almost had a song with Tupac. If you didn't know that, I have a video on this particular channel talking about that particular pitch. Jackal Goldkick kind of showed me that particular concept that Tupac and Tech Nine almost had a song back in 1993. But it's kind of the concept I wasn't aware of Kutt Calhoun did as well as far as that pitch kind of goes. But yeah, there's some stuff on here just within that relative pitch. I'd have to say just kind of the concept about that sort of flair. There's actually some good nightclub type songs on here. I do like the concept of just some of this outing type stuff. Some of these new songs on here are pretty. I mean, most of these night outing original songs on here have the same kind of heavy hitting plotting type production, but it is some good stuff to kind of get in here just for like some white noise as far as that pitch can, just for like some good club noise as far as that particular pitch kind of has with it. Just some great stuff to kind of get on here. But yeah, there's a lot of instrumentals. Just to talk about some of these, I'm just going to go ahead. Once again, there's 19 songs on this particular mixtape. The Dat Piff edition, which is the edition that I downloaded, Nix is this song, which is song number 8, which is I'm the One, which is basically a freestyle to like a Pharrell song off of his In My Mind album from 2006. That's the concept about that. So it's a pretty good pitch to get that one. That is a song I recommend. So I'd have to say, basically, I'll go ahead and recommend the 13 songs out of 19 I recommend on here. So basically, there's 9 songs that are mixtape freestyle songs that I recommend, and then there would be 4 songs that are original songs that I recommend. So that's kind of the concept about it. So we'll go ahead and recommend these 13 songs. They would be, basically, I'll recommend the 9 songs that are freestyle songs first. So they'd be Let You Know with Snug Brim, The Anthem, In My Cup, Cocky, Put You on the Flames, Party People, In the Trunk, and Strip Club Song. And then the extras, and then the 9th song, which is not included on the Dat Piff edition, is I'm the One, which is to Pharrell beats. So just talk about some of these. Basically, there's some good ones on here. Like there's a pretty good freestyle, In My Cup to Young Jocks, It's Going Down. This is a real nice one. Definitely like that one. I like the song Cocky. That's a real nice one. Also, that's to Khalees's Bossy. Pretty good highlight type one. Just get some nightclub type tunes. I do like the fact that Kutt Calhoun kind of had some social kind of appeal about some of these. He just really had the pizzazz about it, talking about sipping Caribou and trunk rattling, and talking about Caribou and trunk rattling, some of that type of stuff, just night outings and just standard fare like that, just within a strange music type sense and more alternative underground rap type fares with some good concepts and get some of those. He freestyles to Shoulder Lean on here. That's another nice one. A surprising one that he freestyles to is My Humps by Black Eyed Peas. I wasn't expecting that one. That one's In the Trunk. That's a pretty good highlight type one to kind of get that one in particular, I'd have to say. Strip Club song is to like Ying Yang Twins' Whisper song, which is a pretty awesome pitch. Definitely like that one. Party People's a pretty good freestyle to the Mobb Deep Got It Twisted production. Definitely like that beat. That's a real classic beat as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. So there's just a number of ones on here. It's probably some ones I'm missing, but most of these are pretty awesome just to kind of get within that particular type sense, I would have to suppose. There's a lot of good instrumentals as far as that particular pitch kind of happens. Shoulder Lean's a real nice one, some of those type ones. There are a couple duds on here to talk about some of the ones I don't recommend. Just a couple of the instrumentals that were not, just a couple of the freestyle instrumentals that were not quite as catchy, like two of which was Chris Brown. I forget the name of the song, but it's a Chris Brown song. This one has Tech Nine on. Hit Me Back has Tech Nine on there, which is unfortunate because Tech Nine freestyling to an instrumental like that's pretty good, but it just wasn't, that one was not as compelling of one. And then there's one to Game Over, which is basically Wanted for Murder Flamethrower, which was to Lil Flip's Game Over from 2004. That one was just not as compelling of one. I mean, that's a good little Flip song, but I just feel like that's not as good of one to kind of freestyle to and kind of do like a mixtape type song to, I'd have to say. That's just kind of the concept about that. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and talk about the 4 songs I recommend that are new songs on here just in particular. And oh yeah, I'm the one is to like the Pharrell song, which is another nice one. That's a pretty good nightclub type song to kind of get on there. Chris Calco does some pretty good Pharrell type singing on that particular song, so that's some good stuff. So, but yeah, to basically talk about some of these songs on here and talk about the 4 songs I recommend. So the first song is Move On with Tech Nine. This is definitely a pretty highlighted type one. This is like a crunchy kind of pounding night outing noise of a song, I'd have to say. It's like some vintage Tech and Kutt. It's like some vintage Tech and Kutt Calhoun team ups, I would have to say in particular, and this song just has some high bravado on there. So it's definitely pretty highlighted type. It's definitely pretty highlighted type one, I'd have to say. The thing about these particular songs is Move On, We Can't Stop, and Blick Blick Blow are all similar type productions. They all have the same plotting kind of heavy hitting type arrangements that just are more brassy, kind of feel like just some sort of brassy kind of rumbler, heavy hitting type ones, just in particular, just a lot of plotting type noise as far as that pitch can happens. But there are some nice ones it's gonna have for like some white noise outings as far as that pitch can happens. Not quite. I mean, Kutt Calhoun can definitely have more melodic type nightclub gems. There is at least one of those on the song Bounce, but I'd have to say some of these are just kind of more, they just kind of feel like more bruiser of type numbers, just kind of more burly type ones as far as that pitch can have with it, just a little bit more heavy hitting type ones within that pitch. But I do like the fact that Tech Nine's kind of on this song. Move On almost kind of feels like a horrorcore type song. This one's a little bit of like a horrorcore type nightclub song. It's not really horrorcore in like the lyrics, but just the production type fare, just the jittery. It's kind of a plotting type production, but it's also kind of like a menacing type one, just within the sense of just having a little bit of grimness towards it. That this is pretty good of like typical kind of Tech Nine type fare, I'd have to say. So Kutt Calhoun's pretty good at that horrorcore type stuff too, despite the fact that it wasn't a horrorcore song, but it just has similarities to it. Bounce is a pretty nice one. This is like a jittery kind of icy night pizzazz of a song, I'd have to say in particular. This song is frenetic and rattled, but it's a good jive for like some Liddy kind of turn up, I'd have to say. So I definitely appreciate this one. This is another one. Bounce just feels a little bit haunting and stuff like that. Just a little bit, definitely jittery, just kind of schizophrenic, just within that relative sense. This is a real icy type song. The great song to kind of hear in like November, December type winter weather as far as that pitch. Great song to kind of hear in November, December, winter type weather as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. Just some real icy type feels and so overall jitteriness that just works extremely well, I'd have to say. Just a good concept. Probably needed another production like this. Definitely think we needed more songs like this, more so than songs like Move On or We Can't Stop, some of those type pitches. But those are pretty heavy hitting type ones. Those are just more bruiser type songs, but I still do think we probably needed like another song like Bounce or something like Bunk Rock Bitch or one of those type ones, or Goldberg off of Blev. Some of those type pitches is something. Some of those type ones like There definitely were some other rumblers off of Bleb that I can't think of right now, just some of those type ones, but I definitely think it probably needed some more exotic type productions on here. But I do still, this mixtape's still going to get a pretty relatively high score. We Can't Stop with Tupac's a pretty highlighted one also. This is a nice one. This is like a strange kind of Tupac collab, but it's still pretty good just within that sense. It's like a pounding kind of dark barrage like club noise of a song, I'd have to say, and this is just like some rowdy jive out. And this song is just some rowdy jive out, I'd have to say. So it's an interesting type pitch because once again, I don't know if Kutt Calhoun and Tech Nine actually, because once again, I don't know if Kutt Calhoun and Tupac actually did a song. It's kind of an amalgamation. It's kind of an interesting pitch as to how this song particularly kind of formed and such. But I'd have to say it's still pretty pounding and menacing type one to kind of get in particular. It's just a little bit more of like a club type tune compared to Move On, where that one was a little bit more jittery and just kind of more screeching of what Move On was a little bit more jarring. This one's a little bit more kind of pounding, just more looming type one. I mean, it's the same type of production, but this one just has a little bit more looming type feel towards it. I have to suppose it's something that relative pitch. I mean, it's not like it's super noticeable. It's not like you're gonna say like, oh, this one's a little bit more so and so. It's just these are the same type of productions just within that fair. It's just kind of the concept that the beat arrangements just are minorly different just within the aspect, but they all of these Move On, We Can't Stop, and Blick Blick Blow are all some type of club productions that are just good for some white noise just at a nightclub just within the same relative same sense. It's just kind of, I mean, that's really the only natch to this is just these productions kind of sound so similar, but it's just kind of aspect they're all good ones. It's just kind of something to kind of when you are smoke something at a nightclub when you're having drinks in your system and smoking some of that type of stuff. These are just some good mixtape type songs to kind of get because these are original type ones. It's an interesting pitch. So, and then Blick Blick Blow is another nice one, just like those. Like I was saying, this is like a thumping kind of heavy hitter club tune of a song, I'd have to say. It's pretty similar to Move On and We Can't Stop, like I was saying. This is just like a basic kind of social night of a song, I'd have to say. There's some interesting type stuff. Definitely appreciate some of these. Just kind of the unfortunate thing that there weren't more variety in like some of the new songs just within that relative pitch, at least in the songs I recommend. Definitely like the concept of these. These are just some good vanilla type tunes. I definitely feel like We Can't Stop and Blick Blick Blow are some vanilla type ones just to get for like some outing type fare. These are just kind of regular night out, just kind of typical, just regular night out, typical kind of Thursday, Friday night, something those relative pitches, but it's just kind of, I don't want to say they're full blown pedestrian, but they're just relatively kind of, I don't want to say these songs are full blown pedestrian, but I would have to say they're somewhat regular just within the relative pitch of it. I'd have to suppose just kind of the concept of just being this kind of good ones, just vanilla, just within the basic concept, just basic kind of night outing type fare as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. Just some good stuff. These are ones I recommend. So these are some ones to listen to. They're not supreme 10 out of 10 type songs in terms of best song ever and that sort of territory, but there are definitely some good ones to kind of have for some vanilla nights out and stuff like that, just within a relative outing sense. They're just kind of concentrating less on the music, I'd have to say. But that's the basic concept about this particular mixtape. So to talk about a few of the songs I didn't recommend on here, there's just some ones like I was saying, like the Game Over type freestyle, and then the Chris Brown freestyle just didn't work that well. There's some ones on here like I like the concept of the song, the story, but it just wasn't that compelling as to how many times I would really full blown listen to it. I'd have to suppose there's some ones on here like some poor First Lady was another story type song that was kind of here and there. I mean, it had a decent production on there, but I just don't know how oftenly I'd listen to that one. There's some ones on here like I kind of felt like Changing Lanes kind of had a poor type production on there. That one was just kind of a little bit abrasive and cagey of type one to really listen to. I mean, I think that was an original type song, but this was kind of an abrasive type format about it. Just didn't really like the execution of that particular type song. So those are just some ones just to kind of talk about in particular. Not terribly many songs on this particular mixtape that I didn't full blown fuck with, that I have to say. But basically 13 songs out of 19 I recommend on this particular mixtape. I'm gonna go ahead and give this mixtape like a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty close to getting like a higher rave score just within that relative pitch. That is quite a good chunk of songs to recommend on here, but for the most part there's only real 4 songs that are new songs that I recommend just within that relative pitch. A lot of these are just instrumentals and freestyles as far as that pitch goes, which is some good stuff. Kutt Calhoun's a pretty good rapper. He does some good jobs with that. It's an interesting kind of pitch from like an alternative rap and underground rap type sense just within the strange music type fold. Tech Nine even shows up on here a couple times and good stuff like that. I like the fact that BG Bullet Wound and Snug Brim and some of those type folks show up. So it's a pretty good pitch. It's kind of an in-house strange music type affair as far as that kind of goes. But it's just kind of concept that some of these does on here. Just kind of a combination of like some of the same type productions and like the nightclub type songs, which is good. I do like these ones on here, but they're just not quite as much of like a supreme kind of 10 out of 10 type format. They're good songs just in terms, I think possibly they could have been varietized, but I do like the concept of these. And then just the concept of just some clumsy type ones on here, just a few poor instrumentals to freestyle to as far as that pitch can happen, and then like like a couple clumsy new songs that just didn't have the execution quite as well as they need to. This is kind of the concept. Just a few here and there type does. For the most part, this is a sheer and sheer type winner for the most part, but it just kind of has the concept of just like a few, just two or three snags about it. This kind of two or three snags about it that just kind of drag it down a bit, I'd have to say. But the social score, I'm going to go ahead and give the social score like an 8.5 out of 10 because I do feel like I'm going to go ahead and give the social score like an 8.5 out of 10 because this does have some social appeal about it. Definitely a lot of these instrumentals are pretty awesome ones to freestyle to and stuff like that. Kutt Calhoun really does a great job of turning these into some of his own songs. They're just different pitches. These do not have like the same. Some of these just have different formats from the original song. Like In My Cup is different from It's Going Down by Young Jock. Cocky is different from Bossy, just kind of within that relative concept. It's the male version of like a female song like Bossy, some of those type ones. The Anthem is a pretty good nightclub song to One Blood, which is a pretty good pitch by The Game's pretty good concept. Get that one in particular. There's just some ones on here, definitely some original type formats just within that. And despite some of my complaints about the original songs I recommended on here, these are still some good ones. I would have to say is just kind of more vanilla, just within a relative sense. These are just more basic outing gems, more so than full blown like the Liddy type factor that just is on extreme highs as far as that pitching goes. But I do like these enough to be able to say that I would listen to them on an outing, like an outing type John and stuff like that. They're just kind of more typical, basic, and vanilla, I'd have to say, but they are some good ones. So 8.5 social. In terms of the future, like Kutt Calhoun dropped an EP in 2023 called Residue or something like that. So I do still have a couple more projects to get to by Kutt Calhoun just within that particular pitch, but this is definitely a pretty solid and solitary type mixtape here to fuck with, and it definitely has some original gems on here that are worth it for the most part, and I do recommend this mixtape. It's definitely a pretty glitzy type one that's worth the investment.